On this episode, we are joined by Crash Jaxon. Welcome to the Road Home from Wrestling interview.
Here in my car, I feel safest of all. I can lock all my doors, and it's the only way I live in cars.
All right, folks, well, welcome back to the Road Home from Wrestling interview. My name's Andy. I'm coming to you live to tape from the Road Home from Wrestling World Headquarters of the world. And today, this is in the category of It's About Goddamn Time. It is Crash Jaxon. What's going on, man?
Oh, nothing much, man. Enjoying this early morning, this fine rain, kind of cooling down because I just came back from Florida. So I've been a little hot for a few days.
Well, yesterday was beautiful, and today it's shitty, but that's kind of Ohio weather. You know, I live in Ohio, too, and, you know, everyone always says if you don't like the weather, wait 15 minutes. But, you know, everyone says that in every state, by the way. It's just our weather is 90% shit. Why do you want to live in Ohio? Other than wrestling, I mean, why would anybody ever want to live in Ohio?
I mean, unless you like living in a big city for like or something like your job, maybe. I don't know.
No one can answer that question. So.
I mean, like, so far in my experience, I've enjoyed living in Ohio much better than I did whenever I was living in Kentucky.
Fair enough. Well, you know, Kentucky's not even a state. It's a commonwealth, so I don't even know what that means. But
I'm from there. I don't know what it means.
Well, we're going to get into some Kentucky talk, too. But first of all, are you doing okay? I'm hoping that you and yours are all safe and no one's ill. And, you know, tell me a little bit about your trip to Florida. Why'd you go down there?
Yeah, everyone's doing well. I went down there I say house sit, but it's more I went and dog sat for my sister. She wanted a weekend away because she works for Enterprise down in Cape Coral. And so she's been like working crazy hours because like they laid off a bunch of people because of all this stuff, and she's like a store manager or like a branch manager, and she's been working crazy hours, and she was able to get like her weekend schedule where it was like completely open from like she got off work at like Friday at like 4:00, and then she didn't have to go back to work till Tuesday. So she got her a nice like little long weekend, little relaxing thing with her wife, and I went down and hung out with her dogs and got to visit her, and I got to see my parents as well while I was down there. So that was pretty cool.
That's awesome. So your sister has a same-sex marriage. That's fucking awesome. I love that. We used to actually, years ago, we used to have a couple hosts of the Road Home from Wrestling podcast that did the Indiana shows, and they were a married gay couple. So we are pro-married gay couples. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
That makes me very happy to hear, you know. But anyway, well, we're supposed to talk about wrestling, so we got to talk about that a little bit. Now, you know, you're from Kentucky, and I can remember it like it was yesterday, although it seems like it's 10 years ago. I saw a poster for Thoroughbred Championship Wrestling, and you were on the poster. You looked a little different than you do now, and you were in a group called Controlled Chaos, a tag team name. And I thought to myself, you know, that's a terrible name for a tag team, and that's kind of a Kentucky thing a little bit, right?
I came up with that name.
You did? Okay.
Me and my tag partner with Henry Shaw, he used to be Hoscat Bad Henry. Like he's had like several different gimmick changes over the years. He's been in the business for about 13 or 14 years now. He was the guy that helped like initially train me.
Okay.
Like he had a hand in it. I wouldn't call him like my sole trainer or anything like that. Because I didn't go to a traditional like wrestling school whenever I first started out. I had a friend that I graduated high school with after I was done playing football, and I always wanted to try to be like a pro wrestler because when I was younger I wanted to wrestle, but I didn't know how to do it. But then I fell in love with football. I was like, I'm gonna put a pin in this. I'm gonna come back to this later, and because like I have a very obsessive like kind of personality when it comes to like sports and like athletics. So whenever I started doing like football, it was like nothing for like well over a decade, nothing but football. And it got to the point where like I was like really trying my hardest. Like, okay, I went to college to play, and then I was like really wanting to go try to play pro at some variation of it, but that like just wasn't in the cards. And I coached football for about 3 years.
No kidding.
And that was like at the beginning of whenever I first started wrestling as well. And so I hit up a buddy that I graduated high school with, and because someone told me that he was wrestling, and I was like, oh, I gotta figure out how to get in that because I wasn't doing anything. I was working out, but like I needed something more. I needed like a purpose to like work out other than just for the sake of working out. And
Okay.
I hit him up, and he was like, yeah, man, just come with me to the next show, and I'll like introduce you to everyone, and then like hopefully we can get you like started training. And then the first like actual like live wrestling show I ever got to see was an indie show. It was a Bluegrass Championship Wrestling in Eastern Kentucky, based out of Paintsville, Kentucky. And luckily that place was 15 minutes from my house, so I didn't have to travel too far to do my training. But I was only they only ran like once a month at the time whenever I first started going, so I was only getting to train one time a month.
I gotcha. Yeah, and that's not enough, especially when, I mean, it's not enough for a million reasons, but especially when you're somebody who's obsessive, which a lot of wrestlers are. I mean, that's an interesting thing. When, I've asked this question to people before. I think it's an interesting question. Before you got into wrestling, did you have any idea how it was going to take over your life and like be all encompassing to the point where you probably don't have many friends now or people that don't have something to do with wrestling, right?
I had no idea, because like whenever I first started out, it started out just more. I didn't know like how I would take to it and how like it would work out for me, but I needed to try it. Like I had to go after it and give it a shot. And at first, it started off kind of like a hobby. Like I still took it seriously, but it was like I was only doing it like 1 or 2 times a month, that sort of thing. And I wasn't traveling, especially like not even close to like what I do now. And after a few years of kind of doing like that, I started like wrestling more a month. Then it became like a few times a week. And then I went to the Ring of Honor. They do those like tryout seminar.
One of the things that I've noticed from folks, over the years is that Kentucky has a bad reputation for wrestling. Now, some of that is earned and some of it's not. But I think a guy like you is one of the people that can change that. What do you think about Kentucky's reputation? And is that something that you feel like is a personal goal of yours to change that?
Yeah. That's something that I really want to like help change, but I'm not gonna be able to like do it by myself. But hope like over the last few years, like Kentucky's been putting out some like really good pro wrestlers. Like there's 2 people from Kentucky that wrestle in WWE with in Sarah Logan and Ricochet, and then the recent signing to Impact of Larry D, Myron Reed. He's contracted with MLW, and he's like traveling like all over the country and internationally as well. And then like I feel like I'm doing well like on the come up and trying to hopefully be like another person that gets a contract with someone. But like I said, like I'm not going to be able to like change that opinion and reputation of Kentucky wrestling by myself. And hopefully like maybe there's some like other people that are coming up behind me that will also help have a shift in that. But it has that reputation for a reason, because like the good old boys from back in the day, people just like not taking it seriously, or what have you, and just it's kind of not fair in a sense. It's like all it takes is one asshole to ruin everything for the rest of them. But in this case, it was a bunch of assholes for a long time that ruined it for the few of us that are like trying to change it.
I've heard stories like this before. A wrestler who is, not an older guy, but a guy who's established, shows up to a show, goes backstage, looks through the curtain, sees that maybe there isn't a ton of people there, and then just leaves. I've heard stories like that. Is that something you've experienced at Kentucky shows before where, some of the wrestlers are just disrespectful? And then we're going to talk about some good stuff. So I don't want you to bury anybody, but I'm just saying, is this some stuff that you've seen before, stuff like that?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I've seen all kinds of stuff. Like guys will look through the curtain and see that it's a lighthouse and like will just kind of phone it in and not really go out and like go at it. What? Oh, no.
Well, that kind of thing's disappointing, and it's shitty to the fans, right?
Yeah, and like I've wrestled in front of like 4 people once at a show, and I still went out there and wrestled like I would have if there was 400.
That's got to be tough, and I know that when you have a big house, when you got lots of fans, that really helps to motivate you as a wrestler.
It's so easy. People don't realize it's so easy to wrestle in front of a bunch of people. It's so hard when there's not that many people, because like people talk about, oh, aren't you nervous in front of like all those people? It's like no, like it's easier because then it becomes like the crowd becomes like a faceless blob. But if there's like a handful of people, then that kid in the third row with his mom that's chewing on the Snickers bar, if he sees me like screw up, and then I'll like look, and then he's like, it's obvious that it happened because there's like, it's harder to hide it when there's like that few of people. Because then you're like not as into it, like even though you try to be, it's just like it's just so hard to wrestle in front of like fewer people. So I still try to go out and do my best and like go out if there was like thousands of people.
It's interesting because this has kind of been highlighted recently with the types of shows that we're seeing lately without a crowd. And the crowd is a big part of the mechanics of wrestling. And I think people, a lot of fans maybe don't know that. But when, guys are resting, that's when the crowd's up sometimes. And, you do a big move or a big sequence of moves, and you maybe need a second. And that's when you work the crowd, or that's when your manager tries to get the crowd up and stuff like that. So, what do you think? Do you think that wrestling is going to change now because of, maybe not having as much fans there and stuff like that? Or have you thought about, anything like that, of changing your style or something?
I think it will change, at least for the initial part, whenever like we start to get to having shows again. But I don't think it will stay that way, because I feel like eventually like we'll kind of get back to like somewhat of being normal like how it was beforehand. But I don't think it's going to completely change, but like the initial few months, maybe like a year, maybe it will change a bit. And then also it could be a good thing, because then it allows us to maybe potentially like everyone be able to like put stuff out, like how the at WrestleMania, the Boneyard match, and do some more cinematic type things like that for like pay-per-views or like YouTube, or if anyone has like their own network or things of that nature. Now I feel like that could be something cool that people could like start doing if there's like less and less, and then maybe like you have this advertised match, but then it's like pre-shot for like YouTube or like to put on a network, or if they sell DVDs and it's like a DVD special match or something, and then that kind of gives incentive for people to like, okay, buy the network, go to the YouTube channel, buy DVDs to see like those matches. And I feel like could be potential money making and like getting more eyes on your product that may not would have seen it or would have truly appreciated that match. Because after watching that Boneyard match, like, holy crap, it's insane. Like, that cinematic. Like, I don't want to see Undertaker wrestle any other match unless it's cinematic like that.
That's how you use him now, right? I mean, he can do that till he's 90. I thought that was so awesome, and the fact that you can watch it as a serious thing or you can watch it as kind of a joke, I think that really helps it be entertaining. And there was a lot of things that were hilarious in that match. There was a lot of things that were serious, and so I thought it was really awesome. And some people don't like it because they think it's kind of campy. But I think that wrestling is campy, and the more you can kind of lean into that, the more successful you'll be a lot of times. There's wrestlers whose entire gimmicks are based on that. I mean, Kylie Ray, who just recently showed up on Impact, her whole gimmick is that she's a campy, cheesy wrestler, and it's awesome, Speaking of all that you just mentioned, there is a show actually that Rockstar Pro had started filming, I think last year, called The Wrestling Show. And this is kind of like a backstage kind of office style, kind of show. Tell me a little bit about what it's been like filming that, and, maybe tell me some of your favorite moments from the first or second episodes.
I have loved every bit of that because I love The Office. And so I'm like low key trying to make myself be like the Jim of Rockstar. So anytime I'm around Victor, like our camera guy, anytime he's around shooting, I'm trying to be like somewhere in the background, and when someone says something like what, and then hopefully like he'll like kind of have a cut to where it like zooms to me, and I'm like got that like look like how Jim does in the Office.
That's fantastic. Well, this show is great. Basically, and Rockstar Pro is releasing these episodes for free during the pandemic. I'm not sure how long that'll last, but the first 2 episodes are out there, and it's a lot of fun. It's just kind of some backstage stuff.
There's 4 episodes out now.
Oh, there is. Okay. I need to, pay attention. Damn. Well, okay, so we're a little all over the place. So let's kind of get back on track here to where we need to talk a little bit about moving to Dayton. So when I heard that you had moved to Dayton, I'm using air quotes, I was excited for you. What does that mean? Because, some people might hear me say, oh, you moved to Dayton, and they think, oh, that's a city in Ohio that he moved to. But that's not what it means, right?
I mean, I do live here in Dayton.
You know what I mean, though, right?
I moved into the Wrestle House, Macho Manor, living under the roof of Dave Christ, being able to train and like be his like learning tree, picking his brain. It's been crazy because like even when we're not like at training and stuff, even if we're just like hanging out watching TV, like there's still like small stuff like little nuggets of knowledge that he'll like drop that relates to wrestling, and then it's like stuff like that you can't get, like you couldn't pay for that, like you couldn't run a seminar and get things like that. And it's like such a I'm lucky to have gotten this opportunity to be able to like move in, because I'd seen he had made a post on Facebook that there was open spots in the house, because like it's kind of like a selective process. And I hit him up. I asked him if any of the spots were available still, because I'd seen it later. I seen like a couple days after he had posted it, because Facebook's weird. And he was like, yeah, man, there's still spots. Come stay for a couple nights, come like join in on training, see how you fit in with everyone, and then like we'll go from there. So I came up, participated in training on Monday and Tuesday, was here for the show on Wednesday. I went back home to Kentucky on Thursday. I had a few like kind of conversations about like what I should do. Shout out to Brutal Bob Evans, because he helped me like kind of get my ducks in a row about like being an adult and like making the move and being the most responsible that I could be. Like he says, don't run off and join the circus. Like have a game. And that's what I did, because the biggest person that I had to like deal with in the conversation of like, oh, hey, I'm moving to another state was my mother. And so like I talked to her, like I didn't tell her that I was moving until the day that I moved. Like I was driving up here. I was already like an hour in on the drive, car loaded full of my stuff on the way up to Dayton. And I texted her, I was like, hey, I'm moving. She's like, what? I was like, yeah, I'm moving to Ohio. She's like, why? I said, wrestling. She said, oh, God. I was like, don't worry. I already have a job lined up, because I was working for Red Bull at the time, part-time, and they let me transfer up here to one of their warehouses, which was awesome. So I was like, I have a job. I have a place to stay. I'm just, like, giving this the best go that I can. And she's like, okay. I mean, she's like, you got a job. You'll be able to like put food on the table and pay your bills. So I can't tell you no. I mean, she was like, you're going to do it anyway, because you never ask me about anything. You just do it and then tell me about it later. I'm like, yeah.
That's what being an adult is, pretty much.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Talking about like Bob Evans, about like him kind of like helping me get like my mind right and like getting my stuff situated like mentally, about coming up here. It was Larry D who like kind of put in that word for me with Dave about allowing me to move in up here, because without that I wouldn't have been able to. And that's like Larry D putting his stamp of approval on me, because I mean that means he saw something in me, which means a whole lot. Because like I wouldn't be in the position I'm at right now if it wasn't for him giving me that stamp. So I'm like super greatly appreciative of everything that Larry's done for me, and I'm so happy with like the success and everything that he's like built towards. Like the night that he got offered the contract, I cried. I was so happy for him. Like I didn't even know what happened, because his match was on before mine. Like 2 matches, and like I was getting ready, and we're the bright side, so like the locker room is like far away, and I had no way of like watching anything. And like I did my match, and then it was like 30 or 40 minutes after my match, I got on Twitter and saw it, and I was like, what the hell? Why did no one tell me? And I ran and I found him, and I just gave him a big hug. I was like, dude, yes. It was so awesome. Like I was so happy. I was probably just as happy as he was that it happened. Like, cause he's I wouldn't call him he's not my wrestling dad, but he's like that cool uncle. He's like my wrestling uncle, and it's awesome to see like what he's getting to do now and everything like that. And hopefully I'll be right there with him soon.
Yeah, you know, he is the Kentucky guy. You know, when I think of Ricochet, I don't think about Kentucky, because most people don't even think about that he's from there. You know, when I think of Larry D, I picture the state of Kentucky in my mind. You know, and he is he embodies the need and the want for Kentucky to get better. And he's one of the best wrestlers I've ever seen. And I've seen a lot of wrestlers. And, you know, he was one of those guys that's given you a lot of opportunities too. You know, real quick experience that I've had watching you over the years that I thought was just fantastic is that we saw you at the old Georgetown Flea Market at Primetime Wrestling. And you were in a match. I think it was a multi-person match. I can't remember. And I remember thinking, that guy kind of looks like Bray Wyatt. And that's as far as my, you know, I thought your name was cool, but that's, you know, that's like all the impact that you made on me at that time. And
I was probably god awful at that point in time.
Well, you know, you weren't as good as you are now. I'll just put it that way. But you know, and you looked a lot different and all that stuff we'll get into. But you know, then moved up to Dayton, as we said, and then, you know, another time you had come back just recently in 2019 to come back to PTW as a established guy who's going after their title. That's fucking awesome, right?
Oh, it's so awesome going from like a relative nobody there, and like the month before I was on a pre-show for their DVD taping, and then fast forward to the next month, I'm in the main event going for their main title. Like, it's crazy how much can change in like that short amount of time.
Well, I mean, and that all comes from you going from somebody who was just kind of once a month, and I, by the way, I think Henry Shaw is really good. So don't take this the wrong way, but you're just hanging out with some Kentucky guys, and every once in a while you're wrestling, to somebody who is living and breathing this thing and organized in a way. What are some of the differences that you immediately have noticed when you went, to a place like Rockstar Pro? Because that's another experience we had one night. We go to all these different places, so we recognize all the people. And one day you got squashed by Larry D at Rockstar Pro. We were like, hey, that's that Crash Jaxon guy, and we remembered you. So there, that's another impact that you made, and slowly but surely you made your way into our hearts as a wrestler. But what are some of the differences that you noticed immediately going to Rockstar and being on that show that you had not quite seen yet before?
Well, one thing is like the old Rockstar building. Whenever I first got there, the first time I ever rode up with Larry D, they had very, very professional, like, kind of stage lighting for the ring. They had a cool entrance. They had nice barricades that went around it. They have a legitimate production area. There's like soundboard. There's a laptop with all the music. There's like different kind of lights. There's a smoke machine. There's like a big projector screen and a projector for like pre-tapes and stuff to show before matches to like kind of put storylines over. There's pre-show meetings, like going over people's times, what to do, what not to do, and like kind of like also just being in that super like professional like TV style product, because they're like at Rockstar we record for TV because we have the weekly amp shows. It was like something I had never dealt with before. Like, I've wrestled for like in front of cameras, but it was always like a stationary, just like hard cam. There at that time we had 2 mobile cams. We had a hard cam. Like, we were getting time cues from referees. Like, it was insane, like the amount of like professionalism and like top notch like production that Rockstar was putting out, or we still put out, compared to like what I was used to. And now, like, if I go somewhere that doesn't have like anything close to that, I'm like, this is weird. It's like kind of wrestling like TV style, like working to hard cam, mobile cam, getting like time cues from referees and things of that nature. Like, whenever I don't at least like get like time cues from refs, like I can deal with like not having a mobile cam or something like that. But if it's a little weird, not like I'm so used to getting like a ref like telling me how much time is left in the match that like it's almost my internal clock is almost terrible, which I'm getting better at that, like getting it back to where it used to be. But it's just like so different whenever I'm used to doing this TV product and then going to somewhere that's not doing a TV product. It's just like culture shock. Like, holy shit.
We all need a Brian Barton in our life to tell us when to stop and start doing things, I think.
Of course.
I love that guy. He's awesome. So, well, another thing that maybe you were doing in Kentucky, maybe you weren't. If you were, I'm sure you're doing it in a different way that you do now, would be promos. Obviously at Rockstar Pro, there's a lot of promos that go on, and sometimes I know you guys tape stuff that doesn't even make it, and there's a lot of taping going on. What's like, I would assume that was very difficult for you at first. What are some things that kind of, I don't know, tell me about learning to do promos. What was that like?
Well, luckily at the OI4K Academy, Dave is very good at cutting promos. And then we also had Bork Torgelson. He is a very intelligent man. He's been in the wrestling. He's been like involved with wrestling for a long time, and like having those guys, and then occasionally like we'd have like Madman Fulton drop in and like help us with stuff. Sammy would help us with promos as well, and just like having like all these different people like giving us tips, tricks. Bork putting us through like the kind of like mental drills to do promos that kind of gets us out of our comfort zone. It like made talking easier. It made being able to like kind of speak like from the top of your head in front of people so much easier than like it would have been if it's just like, oh, here, cut this, go and cut this promo on this, this, and this. It's like, okay. It's like anybody, you give anyone like key points, but like anybody can like cut a promo like that, but it's different whenever you've kind of practiced and like trained your mind and like you've learned how to speak and you have like the peaks and valleys, like you raise your voice and then you like stop and you like talk real slow, kind of like Jake the Snake, and then like doing those different things, like it can change a good promo to a great promo, and like having people like Dave and Bork and Sammy and Fulton and like all the other people that's came through to help out with training, having all those people give us all their tricks that they've learned over the years is like insanely like valuable information and knowledge that you could get. Like I said, there's not enough money in the world to get like that kind of good knowledge, because if you can't cut a promo, there's not enough managers in wrestling anymore, so you can't rely on someone to talk for you. So like if you can't cut a promo, then you're kind of screwed as far as like getting a job on TV. It's like you can get away with like being like the super indie darling and just like do matches, but like for me, I want to be on TV.
Yeah.
So I need to be able to cut promos. I need to be able to talk in front of however many people's at home watching and however many people is there in the arena.
You have to be well-rounded too. And,
Yes.
there's a lot of guys that can do one thing great or two things great, but you have to do it all. And that's one of the reasons why being a pro wrestler is so difficult. It's one of the hardest things somebody could do. That's why I can't do it. But, as far as talking goes, that is something I happen to have a little, experience with. And I think that one of the things that the idea with talking is that you don't want to think about it. You just want to do it. And so, it's kind of the same way with the wrestling moves and everything. You kind of learn all that stuff so you can just forget it and then trust yourself. And, whatever's going to come out of your mouth is going to work, and I love that. I really like to watch promos, and I've really seen yours improve quite a bit. And that's pretty cool, man. You've improved overall in general. But let's talk a little bit about your wrestling style, because, on the Road Home from Wrestling podcast, we've referred to you as the fast guy, but that's not exactly what we mean. What we're trying to mean is like, you're not fast, but like your moves are fast. You're, almost like Naito a little bit, where you're kind of relaxed and then all of a sudden you blow up. So tell me, and not blow up, you know what I mean? But tell me like, what is it? Sometimes I guess, what is it like? Tell me about your wrestling style and how you developed all this stuff. And, is your sports background helped with that? I mean, tell me a little bit about that stuff.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like one word that I've been described as for like all my years of like playing sports and in wrestling, whenever I played football, I played basketball. And in the 6 years that I've been wrestling is like explosive. That's like a big thing because I played running back and linebacker for a majority of my time playing football. And there's a lot of like quick, you have to like be able to stop on a dime and go at like a blink of an eye. So being able to like change direction and just be running full speed one way and then just immediately just put your foot in the ground and go the opposite direction and still hit that same full speed in a split second, like you got to have explosiveness. and I feel like that helps me because it may look like I'm running really fast, but I'm not. It's just like it's like bursts, like rah, like real hard for like a second, and then real hard for another second, and then it cools down again. So it's just like real like hard explosive movements and like actions is probably the reason why it looks like I'm moving so fast. And it's definitely like the years of playing sports, predominantly football, that's helped me like be able to do that.
I did not know that. And so, the next time, hopefully it's sooner than later, I get to see you wrestle. I'm going to be paying attention to that because when I think back of watching you wrestle, that is very, I don't know, I'm going to give you a compliment here, man. I think this is really good stuff. You are able to incorporate that without saying, hey, I'm football guy. You know what I mean? There's a wrestler. Now, I am not burying Steve Manders. This guy is fucking awesome. And I think Steve Manders moves better than any wrestler, period. He is just outstanding at movement, and it's incredible. But, when he was first getting around, he was football guy. And so he would say, hey, I'm doing the football. And then he'd run and do a football move. You're incorporating, kind of cutting and all this kind of lateral movement and all this stuff that you have in football into wrestling without letting anybody know. That's pretty cool.
I know whenever I first started, like that was like a big thing that I tried to like put over with my gimmick. And then I said, screw it. Because like there's more to me than I played football. So like there's only so much, like only so many people can identify with that. And like one thing that helps us as wrestlers get over with fans is relatability. And cause like not everybody played sports, not everybody played football, not everybody played basketball. Like I can only like that's like kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Bottlenecking my demographic. If I'm just like, oh, I'm the football guy. So me like putting that on the back burner, like that's there, but it's like I don't make it like my whole shtick. That I feel like that helps me as far as like being more relatable. Because I mean, not all wrestling fans are fans of other sports, so I have to be relatable. I mean, a lot of them are, but when it comes to football, like I loved it. It was like my sole purpose in life for well over a decade, but I can't make that like my sole identity.
It's a lot harder to, get in the NFL than it is, I mean, it's hard to get in the NFL. There's only so many jobs. So I would say you have a much better opportunity to make it as a pro wrestler than you would, maybe as an NFL player, because there's not a lot of, I mean, other than the XFL, which is now gone, there's not a lot of professional football other than the NFL. So there are no other options. With wrestling, there's a lot of options now, which is great. It wasn't always that way. So that's a really cool thing that's happened. I really enjoy your wrestling style as well. If people listen to this show, they know that running the ropes is like my favorite fucking thing. I can't shut up about it. When somebody does a universal spot or a lucha spot, they are over huge with me. And I don't mean just like they do it, well, I mean that they do it like it's the back of their hand. And I mean, they are making facial expressions. They're doing everything. They're changing it up a little. I love that. And one of the things that you do a lot is change direction. Tell me how, obviously in football, that's a big part of football, especially if you're running back and a linebacker, is you're constantly changing direction, trying to match the person across from you or get away from them. How is that different in wrestling than it would be in football?
I mean, it's kind of not really, cause like I said before, whenever you have to like stop on that dime and make a sudden change of direction, like you could be going balls to the wall to your right, and then oh shit, I have to go to the left. You have to make that plant foot. You have to plant, and you have to use that power that you're using to plant with and shoot off with that foot to be able to equal and get up to that speed you were just at before you stopped. So I don't think it's like that different. It's just different in the parameters of the surface that I'm doing it on.
Yeah, wrestling rings are a mystery to folks like me because I've stood in them before. However, I always wonder because you got that canvas that's over usually kind of a slick surface, and the canvas moves a little bit, even when it's done very well. Even when it's tight, it moves a little bit, right?
Yeah, just like a little bit. If it's done properly, like it'll just slightly move. But I've been in some where, oof, they're like moving all over the place, like a shitty rug.
Well, and that's a lot different than running on turf or grass or something where you have cleats and the surface isn't moving. Although sometimes when you're in natural grass, it does move a little bit when you step on it. That's pretty cool, man. Like I said, next time I watch you, I'm going to be paying attention to that. Something you just mentioned a second ago, you were explaining how to plant your foot and all that stuff, and you did that very well. I could picture it perfectly, almost as if you've taught it before, which you have. Earlier in the interview, you mentioned that you were coaching football, and you've been at the OI4K Academy for long enough at this point where you're starting to coach wrestling, right?
Oh yeah, I am one of the assistant trainers now at the school, which is awesome. Dave's philosophy when it comes to like being at the school, I got started off as a student and a trainee, and then eventually it gets to the point where you need to, if you can teach, then it'll make you a better wrestler because you have to be able to break it down and understand it yourself. And if you can break it down and make other people understand it, then it in turn will make you a better wrestler.
I think that's a tremendous philosophy because it's a fact. I mean, if you walk up to the average person and ask them to teach you something that even they know how to do very well, they may not be able to do it just for the simple fact that they don't have that relatable characteristic that you need. Because being a teacher isn't just explaining the thing well. It's changing the way that you teach for each kind of student. Sometimes it's getting to them on their level. Is there anything you can kind of tell us about maybe a success story where you've been able to teach something to somebody and then you see that student have that aha moment, which is kind of the ultimate thing as a teacher?
I don't really have like a single like kind of success story when it comes to that because like I'm kind of just now I'm only been like doing this for a few months, and so I'm only helping. This is like the first class I've helped with like this. But as far as like helping people, you have to be able to like make whenever you're trying to explain a certain thing. Whether it's football or wrestling, you have to be able to break it down and make it to where they would understand it. So I use a lot of sports references whenever I'm helping coach at the OI4K Academy because a lot of our students were former athletes. They've played football, they've played basketball, baseball. Some of them were amateur wrestlers, but they all know sports. So being able to break something down and make it relatable in that sort of sense to something they've done before, then it makes them be able to grasp onto it and be able to achieve and like kind of get that particular thing down quicker because they've done it before, they just don't know it yet.
Right. Yes.
It's just making that connection between the two sports, like wrestling and football, and doing that, and then they'll have like okay, I got it now. And then they'll do it the next time. And then, all right, they got it. And then every time after that, it's perfect. So it's just being able to break it down and make it relatable and make it to where they can understand it and kind of put it in terms where maybe they've been in a similar situation or they've done that said act before and just not realized it.
One of the coolest things is when you see a student succeed. I taught guitar lessons for almost 20 years, and I've had some students that have been very successful at playing. And when I see them make a step without me, when I see them, I taught them something, but then they take it to the next step without me. That's kind of the moment. And those moments are, they're satisfying as much as doing something yourself, but in a different way. So I can't wait for you to kind of experience that a lot, because that's a tremendous feeling. Now,
Well,
somewhat,
I've kind
Go
of
ahead, sir.
experienced that as far as like football coaching.
Sure,
I've
there you
had
go.
a few kids that I helped coach go to college and like play football. And so like that's kind of like, hey, like little feather in the cap. So I feel like that's like one of those things. Like whenever I saw that they signed their letter of intent to go to whatever school and play, that's like one of those like proud moments, because like I was like a staple in their learning, like in their journey of getting to that point.
It's pretty awesome, man. So, well, hopefully you'll be able to have those experiences soon with wrestling as well. And, another experience that I've had was, as I said, we were going to Rockstar when you first showed up, and then we were gone for a little bit. And when we came back, you and Christian Cobain, which it was his birthday yesterday, so happy birthday, Christian Cobain. And you guys were the Trash Punks, and you guys are fucking over. I mean, huge. Like, the surprising thing to me is we went to a show, I think it was Horrorcore, and you guys were in the main event. And I was like, that's weird, But then when I saw the match and saw the crowd's reaction, I was like, that's not weird at all. Makes perfect sense. Tell me about your kind of rise to power there, and how much fun has that been, kind of being successful with the Dayton crowd?
Well, like me, Cobain did the same thing I did. He uprooted his life from West Virginia and moved up here to Dayton. He lived in the Wrestle House. We were roommates. We trained together. We worked out together. We traveled the roads together. Well, like at first we were just kind of like bodies, doing security, merch, being the scramble guy, just doing the job, just showing what we can do, showing our worth. And then there was like a shift kind of near the end of the old Rockstar building going into the new one. Like there was kind of like a culture change a little bit as far as like the locker room at Rockstar, because like half the roster got signed. Ace Austin, Trey Miguel, Zach Wentz, all those guys got picked up. And so like they're not at Rockstar every week anymore. So there's a lot of gaps that needs to be filled. And me and Cobain we were already paired up with Mathis whenever we were at the old building, but that kind of gap of time off, we had a conversation, because like we weren't really like liking the direction that we were going, because we didn't really identify with the white trash thing, even though we're from very white trash areas. Like we've been around it our whole lives. We don't want to be that. And so like there's a phrase that we use a lot here. It's like, don't fake the funk. And whenever we were trying to be like the Trash Punks, we were definitely faking the funk, because like we didn't like believe it in our hearts that we were white trash. especially because like that's something that we grew up around, like I said, and it was hard to like make it believable that we were that. And so me and him had a conversation, Cobain, we had a conversation about it. And then we had a conversation with Chad, CW, and we were like, hey, can we like change our music? And then he was like, yeah, you can change your music. And I was like, oh, well, can we change our name? He was like, to what? He was like, we should be the Punks. And he was like, yeah, sure, I don't care. Whatever. It was like, whoa, was that easy? So then after we started like tagging, and then we kind of like went on a losing streak for about 3 months as a tag team, as just being the Punks, but like slowly and surely, like we were like winning the crowd over, kind of getting that like underdog, like that underdog love. Everyone wants to see the underdog like win, and we were getting that. And then June 19th, of 2019, me and Cobain beat Pat and Boone, accompanied by DK Summers, aka Necro Butcher, and we beat them for the Rockstar Pro Tag Team titles. And then after that, that's when as we dubbed it, the Summer of Punks, because we held those titles until the November pay-per-view, and that was like almost 6 months, which was crazy because for a while, like the kind of tag titles would change hands pretty frequently, not like super frequently, but like no one had held them for an extended amount of time in a while. Like people were holding them for like a month or 2 months, and they drop it. The first time I held it with Mathis, we held it for a week and we dropped it. So it's just like, it was awesome to see that we were getting that kind of like, hey, you're the face of our tag division here. And going from like being basically essentially nobodies on the roster, like the job guys, the scramble dudes, to being like the face of the tag team division was insane. And then like we started having like dope ass matches with like everybody, with like the Bambinos, the Hooligans, who else did we wrestle? Shit, there's so many people I forgot. We never got to wrestle the Gymnasty Boys. I'm upset about that. At least not in like a straight up tag match. Like we've worked against them in like there's like a big weird like triple threat tag match that we did. But yeah, we got to like wrestle all these people. Oh, we got to wrestle the Budapest Bastards from Hungary during the European Summer Vacation series of shows that we did during the summer. That was awesome, getting to wrestle those guys. Those guys are awesome. They're tag champs at their home federation in Hungary, which is dope. And I want to go there and wrestle them because I see their pictures on Instagram all the time, and they have like thousands of people in their arena, and I'm like, holy shit. But hopefully that can happen when everything is back to normal. But yeah, getting to like be the face of the tag team division after being like relative, like basically being throwaway guys, and getting that opportunity, and having the booking committee give like us that thumbs up, and give it like having faith in us that we can like carry the tag team division was like awesome.
Well, I've often said the ultimate fan experience is getting to see a wrestler make those steps. Go from someone who we saw hanging out in Kentucky, not doing much, to a guy, that's one of the most over talents in Ohio right now. And it's pretty awesome, man. I'm really happy for you. And, folks, I'm sure have noticed you've gone on, a physical transformation, a mental transformation, a pro wrestling transformation. What's next for Crash Jaxon?
Hopefully, whenever all this stuff gets back to normal, we're able to travel and have shows again. I want to go and wrestle at places that I haven't been before. I want to wrestle for places like Limitless and beyond. I want to go to California. I want to go to Canada. I want to go to Mexico. I want to go to the UK. I want to travel all over the world, and I want to do more national TV wrestling shows, whether it be for Impact, Ring of Honor, MLW, maybe get a spot for WWE, maybe get a tryout. I don't know, but I just want to do the bigger and better. Now I've done like the little stuff, and I feel like I'm gonna still do the little stuff because it helps me like kind of hone in on my craft. But I really want to and need to do these bigger and better things now, because if I get too comfortable doing like the little stuff, then I don't want to get complacent and then get stuck. And that's the reason, like, you gotta like constantly change, and you gotta be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I feel like if I'm able to stay doing that, then there may be no limit to what I can do. It's just basically having the right people see me at the right time.
Well, you've gotten to do some really cool things already, and I can't wait to see what you do next. And you clearly have a very, very good mental outlook for this kind of thing. And, like I said, it's been a really fun time to see you grow. And everyone that I talk to, if I mention your name, they have something good to say about you. And that's kind of rare in pro wrestling. So, so that's pretty awesome. And I'm really thankful to finally have you on. Where can folks support Crash Jaxon? Because you have a multitude of ways. Is that correct?
Yes, I have so many different ways. All of my social media handles are on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Patreon. It's all at the Crash Jaxon. Also my Pro Wrestling Tees store. It's prowrestlingtees.com/the Crash Jaxon. Everyone needs to get on there and buy some more shirts so I can get that limit raised off of me so I can upload some new designs, because I got some really dope ones that I feel like everyone's gonna enjoy, because I got a couple of things that are in the works that I feel like there'll be something that everybody will like. Got some very pop culture-y stuff. I'm just ready to just pop it off.
Let me break in real quick and just mention, too, that your T-shirts are not just black. You have cool colors on your T-shirts, which is kind of cool. A lot of folks, they just have black T-shirts, and that's fine. That makes us fat wrestling fans look a little skinnier. But, yours are kind of cooler colors. Like there's a charcoal shirt that I may have just purchased. So, I'm looking forward to getting that and everything. And what's one thing that folks could see on the Patreon that they're not going to be able to see anywhere else?
Well, they will be able to see a little bit more intimate side of like my life.
Uh-oh. What's that mean?
Not in a dirty way. There's nothing wrong with that for those that have that, but you have to be a little bit more in depth. Like I have things on certain tiers. I love watching TikTok cringe compilations. I love watching those. And so, like, one of the tiers, you get to watch me react to those bad TikToks, and it's awesome. There's another one you'll get access to, like, see, like, what my workout regimen's like, and, like, my pre-workouts, my post-workout stuff, what supplements I'm taking. Let's see, there's another one where you'll get to see some matches that you wouldn't get to see anywhere else. After I get a certain goal, I'm going to do like a weekly watch along of my favorite TV series ever, Dragon Ball, starting from episode 1. Because like my whole Patreon is kind of like Dragon Ball based with like the names of the tiers and everything like that. So all of my Dragon Ball lovers out there, you guys would love that. And speaking of like Dragon Ball stuff, like maybe one of the next designs that I got coming out is Dragon Ball inspired. Mm-hmm. But that's all I'm going to say about that. I can't put it out there unless you join my Patreon, and then you can see all of my exclusive designs before anyone else.
Jesus. It sounds to me like somebody can't afford not to sign up for the Patreon. That's the way it sounds to me. So, it sounds like that would be a lot of fun. Well, like, man,
tiers that are as little as $3 a month.
There you go. See, you won't even notice, and that'd make a big difference in the life of Crash Jaxon. So,
that would help purchase a bang.
There you go. See, well, I appreciate you coming on and everything. And do you have any questions for me, or do you have any other things that we need to make sure our audience knows about?
I hope everyone is staying safe, staying home. If they don't have to go out, don't go out, because we don't know like the full extent of COVID-19 and all that. Hopefully everyone is like, if you have to go out, you're wearing your masks, you're washing your hands, you're using hand sanitizer, you're making sure that all of your loved ones are safe as well. Because if it all starts with like one person, so everyone needs to like kind of do their part. Like I don't go out and travel unless I have to. And when I do, I wear a mask. I make sure I have hand sanitizer on me, and I hope everyone's doing the same. Because the sooner we can get out of this, the sooner we can get back to being somewhat close to being normal again. And what that means is you guys can start coming back to wrestling shows and watching me kick people in the face, or me getting kicked in the face. Who knows?
Probably both, you know. So.
Probably both, because it happens a lot. Both of them.
Well, that's outstanding, man. Again, I appreciate your time and everything. And, folks can follow me at Drusifer Tweets on Twitter. You can follow our show at The Road Home FW. If you missed any of the links that Crash just mentioned, they're going to be down in the show notes below this episode. So for me and my guest, Crash Jaxon, thank you guys so much for listening.